Hi everyone, my name is Jada, and today I'll be discussing Season 1, Episode 3 of the Black Mirror episode called The Entire History of You. So, I personally really enjoyed watching this episode, and I think it does a great job at really highlighting many of the theories we've learned these past few weeks in class. But for this presentation specifically, I'm going to be analyzing the episode through the lens of biopower. So I think this episode does a great job at showcasing biopower and really how much of an influence technology has on society. Okay, so before we dive into the episode, I wanted to quickly explain what biopower actually means, just so it's easier for whenever we show the connection later on. So the term actually comes from Michael Foucault, and it's basically about a different kind of power. So usually whenever we think of power, we kind of think of force or punishment, specifically like laws, prisons, or police. But biopower is something more subtle. So instead of directly forcing us, it kind of shapes how we live, how we behave, and even how we think at times. The idea is that people end up regulating themselves because of social pressures, institutions, or even technology. We don't necessarily have to feel like someone is watching us at all times, but instead, we've kind of been trained to watch ourselves. And biopower doesn't just monitor us, but it actually defines our behaviors. It creates moral frameworks that shape our identity and sets the expectations that we think we should live up to. Okay, and then next we're going to go into the episode summary. So, I'm just going to give you guys a quick brief summary of the episode just so you understand how biopower is shown within. So, in the episode, everyone has a device called a grain, which is implanted in their head behind their ear, so like around here. And it pretty much records everything they see, everything they hear, and even allows them to replay any memory pretty much at any time. And this can be displayed like to themselves or on a TV screen to others as well. And I'm not gonna lie, at first when watching this, I thought it was kind of convenient that they could replay memories and pretty much remember everything and see everything. But as the episode went on, it definitely quickly showed how the grain pretty much completely changed how people acted and trusted each other. And instead of just helping, it seemed like it started to completely control their personal lives and even their relationships, which we'll see later on. Okay, so this episode definitely had many examples of biopower, but I'm going to only explain three of them that really stood out to me. So, the first scene I wanted to highlight is Liam during his job interview. So, during the interview, everything seems fine. It seems like a normal, just any other interview. Um, but afterwards, Liam starts rewinding the memory of this interview and pretty much over analyzing it in extreme detail. He's not just watching what he said, but instead he's zooming in on the interviewer's face and really trying to catch every hint, every just expression in their tone and making sure he heard everything correctly. And really, like I said, over analyzing everything of the interview. So, this connects to biopower because the grain makes him pretty much discipline himself. So, nobody's forcing him to do this, but the technology almost encourages him to keep checking himself, almost like he's kind of grading himself in this example. Um, so, I feel like this is the whole point of biopower. It doesn't necessarily punish us directly or force us to do anything, but it kind of makes us regulate ourselves. And then in this scene and in many others throughout the episode, we see that Liam is kind of stuck in this cycle of self-surveillance and he's been using the grain to really critique and control his own behavior. Okay. So the next example that I wanted to use is from the dinner party scene. So this is where Liam, his wife, and many of their friends are just all hanging out, and the whole group kind of starts casually just using the grain and displaying it on the TV for everyone to see. Some people, for example, are replaying funny moments, they're looking at tiny details of certain things from other moments, and even one guest in the episode asked another to prove what happened by showing their memory as well. What stood out here to me is how normal it kind of was for all of them. Nobody seemed shocked or uncomfortable with the idea that their private experiences or memories were being pulled up and showed and replayed to everybody. It kind of all just seemed normal to them. And it's kind of treated as just like a casual entertainment as well. This is where we do see biopower in this example as well, because the grain is showing how kind of how now it's created a culture where surveillance isn't just expected anymore, but it's now become a part of their everyday daily lives. And sorry. And then people automatically have now started to regulate themselves because they know that at any moment, any time, like in this example, their friends could ask to pull up a memory or show them something. So moving forward, I feel like this shows how people have started to regulate their behavior and change how they act and everything. Um, and as I said, you don't even need to have someone actively watching you as well. Just the possibility that later on someone can ask or want to check your memory is just enough to change or affect someone's behavior in the future. Okay, and then the last scene that I wanted to show you guys is it's towards the end of the episode, and it's when Liam and his wife get into a really heated argument pretty much about the wife's ex in the past. So what makes this argument worse is that Liam doesn't just trust what his wife is telling him. He kind of wants to see for himself, like through her grain and through her memory, kind of what she's saying and if what she's saying is true and if it's matching up, like the same timeline, when she said it, what she said, pretty much everything. So instead of letting things go, he kind of uses the grain as a surveillance tool against her. And this really connects to biopower because it shows how surveillance isn't just about the government or big institutions that we think usually use it, but can also affect our personal relationships, like in this example with a husband and a wife. So, like in this scene where his wife feels like she kind of has to constantly watch herself because at any moment, anything she does could be replayed later on if Liam asks her, and it could kind of be like thrown back in her face. And I feel like that pressure kind of makes her act a certain way and kind of takes away her freedom in a sense. And especially in her own marriage, I feel like that's someone you should feel safe with, but I feel like she kind of has to, like, she doesn't have any freedom, she can't really be herself because at any moment he can throw it back at her or demand he sees a memory or a replay of something. Okay, and then just as a conclusion, so looking back at the overall episode, some key themes that really stood out to me was that people are constantly monitoring themselves. And then, two, surveillance has become very normalized. And then, lastly, privacy and trust no longer exist, as we've seen in the episode. And I feel like what's really important about this is that this is not just a fictional show. Yes, maybe this doesn't exactly happen in real life. We don't have the grain and the stuff implanted in the back of our ears, yes, but I feel like it does show a big part of it's very similar to real life as well. And it shows a part of our real world with the way like phones and technology function as well, because it's really similar. Technology can really shape our behavior, it can influence our social interactions, and really control us without even realizing it. And I think this episode almost in a way warns us that convenience can really disguise itself as control. And I feel like moving forward after watching this episode, that's something that myself and also just society as a whole should be more mindful just about how technology truly affects our lives, our daily lives, our relationships, just everything. All right. So, this is the end of my presentation. Thank you guys so much for listening. I hope you guys were able to learn something because I feel like during this experience while making this, I definitely learned a lot as well. Before I do end this though, I did want to leave everyone with a quick question because I feel like while watching the episode, it kind of made me put myself in their shoes. Like if I was them, how I would react. If I had the grain, what would I do? Or if I even would want a grain. Because I feel like that's something, like, it's very interesting because I feel like it would be very cool to look back at memories and see different things, but I feel like to what extent, if it's gonna cause trouble in relationships and cause problem with just everything and affect my daily life, I feel like at some point I would start going crazy. So I feel like my question is, um, if you had the grain, would you use it and why? Or would you even want to have a grain? Um, but yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the presentation. Thank you so much.